The day my own children told me I was no longer needed. When my daughter stood in the doorway that morning and told me in a quiet voice that I should start packing my things, I didn't react the way she expected. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask why. I simply nodded, folded the corner of the bedsheet I had been smoothing, and whispered, "All right, dear." That's the part that surprises people when I tell this story. The calmness, the quiet acceptance, the way I stood there still and small, as if her words were nothing more than a gentle reminder about the weather. But inside, a storm was moving. Slow, heavy, one that had been building for years. I think a mother always senses when her place in her children's lives begins to fade. It doesn't happen suddenly. It's not a single moment, not one argument or one forgotten birthday. It's a long, silent drifting. A soft pulling away that feels almost natural at first, until one day you realize you're standing alone on a shore you used to share. That morning, sunlight was coming in through the curtains. The room looked warm, peaceful, like any ordinary day. But her words changed the temperature of everything. Even the air felt different. Colder, thinner. She didn't look at me for long. She said, "Mom, it's better this way, for everyone." Then she stepped back as if waiting for me to break or plead or fight. But I did none of that. Because the truth is, I was tired. Not physically, though age does bring its own weight. No, my tiredness came from holding onto a place in their lives that kept shrinking year after year. A place I kept trying to fit into, even when the shape no longer matched. And that morning, when she told me to leave, it was like hearing something my heart had already known, something I had been preparing for without realizing it. Still, a part of me cracked. A quiet crack. A small, private breaking that made no sound in the room, but echoed loudly inside me. I smiled instead of crying. I agreed instead of asking anything. And that, I think, is the saddest part of all. You see, I wasn't always this quiet woman standing in a half-lit room, clutching a bedsheet and pretending my heart wasn't trembling. There was a time when my house was full of noise, full of life, full of the kind of chaos only children can create. I raised 3 of them, 2 daughters and a son, and I raised them mostly alone. Their father, God rest him, was a gentle man, but life took him away early. Too early. So I learned how to stretch every coin, how to turn leftovers into dinner, how to mend uniforms. Late at night when my eyes wanted to close, I learned how to be mother and father in the same breath. And I did it gladly. My children were everything to me. Every laugh, every cry, every scraped knee and late-night fever. I lived my life around them, not beside them. I shaped myself into what they needed, and I never complained. I never asked for anything back. Maybe that was my first mistake. When they grew older, things changed as they naturally do. They had their own dreams, their own paths, their own homes. I understood that. I celebrated it. But deep inside, I believed there would always be space for me, a seat at their table, room in their hearts, a place where I still mattered. Maybe that was my second mistake. Years passed. Visits became shorter. Phone calls came only on birthdays, and sometimes not even then. They loved me, I know they did, but love started to look different. Quieter, more distant, as if I was a memory they were trying to carry around without fully knowing where to keep it. When my health began to decline a little, they decided it would be better if I stayed with my eldest daughter, Anna. She lived in the biggest house. She had the most stable life, as they put it. It made sense on paper. I moved in thinking it would be temporary, just until my legs got stronger, just until the dizziness went away. But temporary things have a way of becoming permanent when no one questions them. At first, I felt welcome. She made me tea in the afternoons. Her children would run into my room with their drawings and toys. Her husband would greet me kindly when he came home. But slowly, little things changed. Little silences, little hesitations, little sighs when I asked for help opening jars or reading small text on the medicine bottles. I tried not to notice. Every mother tries not to notice. But hearts are sensitive instruments. They pick up the faintest shifts, the smallest drops in warmth. And bit by bit, I began to feel like a guest. Not a mother, not family, just someone passing through the house, grateful for any space that wasn't taken. I never complained. I swallowed every lonely afternoon, every moment when I felt like a shadow moving quietly through rooms that were no longer mine. Because isn't that what mothers do? We hold everything silently so our children don't have to. I remember one evening in particular. It was early winter, the kind of evening when the cold settles in your bones even before the sun has fully set. I was sitting at the kitchen table, folding laundry, when I heard Anna sigh in the living room. Not loud, not angry, just a tired, heavy sigh. A sigh that felt like it was meant for me. She didn't know I heard it, of course. She was speaking to her husband in a low voice. I could only catch pieces of their conversation. She needs so much help lately. I barely have time for my own things. I don't know how long we can keep doing this. I sat there holding one of her children's shirts, slowly folding it, smoothing out the wrinkles. Again and again until I realized I was stalling, just to make the moment last longer, to pretend I hadn't heard their words. That night I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft ticking of the wall clack. And in that quiet, something inside me shifted, like a small, thin crack appearing in a window pane. Not enough to shatter it, just enough to remind me it wouldn't stay whole forever. I told myself it was normal. They were busy. Life is heavy. I didn't want to be a burden. I repeated these thoughts like a lullaby, hoping they would calm the ache in my chest. But the truth is, when you start hearing the word burden in your own mind, it becomes easier to believe others might be thinking it too. My days in Anna's house followed a simple routine. I would wake up early, long before anyone else. Old age teaches you to rise with the sun, even when you want to sleep in. I would make myself a small cup of tea and sit by the window, watching the quiet street outside. Some mornings I would watch children walking to school with their heavy bags. Some mornings I would see neighbors waving to each other while heading to work. And sometimes I would see no one at all, just the soft movement of leaves or an empty street, shimmering under sunlight. I liked those quiet mornings. They made me feel like I still had a little piece of life that belonged only to me. When Anna woke up, she would greet me politely. "Good morning, Mom." Her words were kind, but her eyes always looked tired. Or maybe they were simply busy, too full of tasks and schedules and responsibilities. I tried not to add to that. I helped where I could. I folded laundry. I prepared simple food when my hands were steady enough. I kept my room tidy. I stayed out of their way when friends or neighbors visited, because I could sense Anna did. Want them to see me wandering around in my robe or moving slowly through the hallways. It wasn't shame, at least I don't think so. It was more like she didn't know how to fit me into the picture of the life she was trying so hard to maintain. And I didn't know how to remind her that I was still part of her story. There were moments, small, gentle, quiet moments, when I felt the distance more than anything. Once her son, my grandson, came running into my room with a drawing he made at school. He was so excited. He held it up to me saying, "Grandma, look, I drew our family." I smiled and leaned closer. It was a picture of a house with 4 stick figures in front of it. A father, a mother, and 2 children. I waited a moment, then asked softly, "And where am I, sweetheart?" He frowned, looked at the paper, then looked at me. "Oh, I forgot you," he said almost carelessly, and ran back out to play. It wasn't his fault. Children don't understand these things. But the words stayed with me longer than they should have. Another time, Anna was planning a weekend trip for her family. I overheard her telling her husband, "It will be good for the kids, a break from everything at home." She didn't mention bringing me. She didn't even ask if I needed anything while they were gone. I spent that weekend in the house alone, moving as quietly as a shadow. The silence felt bigger, heavier, stretching across every room like a thin blanket that didn't quite reach my feet. I tried to make myself helpful, hoping that maybe if I contributed more, I would feel needed. Again, one afternoon I decided to make dinner as a surprise. Nothing complicated, just a simple stew, something warm and comforting. I wanted the house to smell like the old days, the days when they would run into the kitchen, asking Mom, is it ready yet? The days when I was the center of their little world. When they came home that evening, Anna stood in the doorway of the kitchen, staring at the pot. On the stove. Mom, you shouldn't have cooked, she said softly. I smiled. I wanted to help. She squeezed her lips into a line. It's just we already planned to order food tonight. The kids don't like stew much anymore. Her husband stepped forward, smelling the air. It actually smells nice, he said gently, but Anna shot him a look that said, don't encourage this. So they ordered pizza, and my stew sat untouched on the stove until I quietly packed it away in small containers and put it in the fridge. I ate it alone over the next few days. Not because it was my favorite, but because I didn't want it to go to waste. As the months went by, I learned to make myself smaller, quieter. I learned to ask fewer questions. I learned to keep my steps light so they wouldn't hear me moving around. Some evenings I stayed in my room even when I wanted to join them in the living room. I would hear laughter or a movie playing, but I didn't want to interrupt their family time. I told myself this is how it's supposed to be. Children grow up, they have their own lives. I should be grateful to have a place here at all. But gratitude can become a cage when it replaces your right to be loved. And somewhere along the way, without fully realizing it, I began preparing myself for the day. They would finally ask me to leave. I could feel it coming, like a quiet shift in the seasons. A cold wind moving in. A final chapter turning. I didn't know when it would happen, or how, or what words they would use. I only knew it was getting closer. There is a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being completely alone. It comes from being surrounded by people who no longer see you the way they once did. People you love. People who used to turn to you for everything, but now look past you as if you were part of the furniture. That was the loneliness I lived with. I don't blame Anna. Not entirely. She was working long hours, taking care of her children, managing her home, balancing her life. I could see the exhaustion in her shoulders, the way she moved, the way she sighed when she thought no one was listening. But even then, it hurt to feel like an extra weight on her back. Some evenings, she would come home so tired she would sit at the edge of the couch and rub her temples. I would stand in the kitchen doorway and ask gently, "Do you want some tea, dear?" She would smile politely, the kind of smile you give a stranger offering help. "No, Mom, it's okay. I just need a minute." Then she would close her eyes, and I would quietly step away so she didn't see the disappointment on my face. I wanted to matter, not to burden her, just to matter. One afternoon, I noticed Anna whispering urgently on the phone. She was standing in the hallway, turned slightly away from me, her voice low but strained. "No, I know, but I don't have a choice," she said. "We can't keep doing this. The kids barely have space as it is." There was a pause. "I'm not saying she's a problem," she continued, her voice dropping even lower. "I'm just saying it's getting harder. I can't do everything. I need help." She didn't know I was standing just a few steps behind her. I don't think she would have chosen those words if she knew. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like she was drowning and I was the extra weight pulling her underwater. I stepped back quietly before she could see me. Back into my room. Back into my small space where I spent most of my days. I sat down on the edge of my bed and ran my fingertips along the blanket. It was soft, slightly wrinkled. A blanket I had brought from my old home, the home I once thought I would grow old in. I whispered to myself, maybe she's just stressed. But the truth was standing right in front of me, even if I tried to look away. The truth was she was asking for help. And the help she needed was freedom from me. As weeks passed, the small shifts became larger ones. Anna stopped asking if I wanted to join her and the children on their walks. She stopped checking if I had eaten. Sometimes she didn't come into my room at all, even just to say goodnight. Her children followed her light without knowing it. They no longer ran to me with drawings. They stopped asking me to read bedtime stories. They would wave politely when passing my door, but they rarely came inside. I became someone they knew but didn't know how to include. Her husband, Mark, remained gentle. Sometimes he would ask, "Are you all right, Mom?" But his voice always sounded cautious, as if he was afraid of stepping into a conversation he wasn't ready to have. I appreciated him, but he couldn't make up for everything else. I began to see it clearly. I was living in a house where I didn't belong anymore, where love still existed, but space didn't. I told myself it was temporary. Maybe Anna was just overwhelmed. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I needed to give it time. So I tried harder. I tried to be cheerful, helpful, present but not intrusive. I cooked less so I wouldn't mess up their plans. I cleaned more so the house would feel crowded. I asked fewer questions, stayed in my room more, and tried to make myself as small as possible. But trying to take up less space doesn't make you invisible. It makes you unforgettable in the wrong way. It makes people quietly wonder why you're still there. One night I overheard Anna talking to her sister, my younger daughter, on the phone. "She doesn't understand how difficult it is," Anna said. "I can't manage everything, I just can't. Someone else needs to take her." There was a long silence. Then she added softly, "I don't want to be the bad one here, I really don't." Those words stayed with me. I don't want to be the bad one. It meant she had already decided something. She just didn't want the blame. That night I cried quietly into my pillow. Not loudly, not like a child, but like a mother who finally realized she had become the weight her children were trying to. One afternoon, I went into the living room to sit with the family. They were watching a movie, something light and cheerful. I stood at the edge of the room, waiting for someone to notice me. No one did. I slowly sat down at the far end of the couch. The children glanced at me, then back at the screen. Anna didn't look up. Her husband nodded politely but didn't speak. I sat there watching the bright, colorful characters move across the television screen, but everything felt dim. It wasn't the movie. It was me, or rather the place I no longer had. After a few minutes, Anna got up and went into the kitchen. When I followed her to get a glass of water, she turned around and said gently, "Mom, were you looking for something?" "No," I replied quietly. "I just wanted some water." She nodded. "Okay, I thought maybe you needed help." Her voice wasn't unkind. It was simply distant. And I realized then she didn't expect me to want company. She expected me to need something. There's a difference, a painful one. Some endings don't arrive with a slam of a door or a loud argument. Some endings walk in softly, wearing silence like a coat. And before you know it, they're sitting right beside you. Every day I felt the space between me and my daughter widen. Not physically, emotionally. I felt myself becoming a guest in the life I once helped build. A visitor staying too long. Someone who needed to take the hint, even if no one said it out loud. And deep inside I knew that someday, maybe soon, she would ask me to leave. Not because she didn't love me. No, love remained, but it had changed shape. She loved me from a distance now. From the safe place where responsibilities ended and guilt began. I didn't know how or when it would happen, but I knew the day was coming. And I told myself, when it comes, I hope I have the strength to accept it with grace. I didn't know then that the moment was much closer than I imagined. The day the real conflict began didn't look dramatic. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, no harsh words thrown through the air. It arrived the same way winter arrives, slowly, quietly, almost politely, yet impossible to ignore. Once it's there, I remember it clearly. It was a Wednesday afternoon. The sky outside was dull, covered with a thin layer of white clouds. I had finished folding the laundry and was sitting near the window, knitting a small scarf for my granddaughter, something she had casually mentioned wanting. I thought it would make her smile. Then I heard Anna call from the living room, "Mom, can we talk?" Her tone wasn't angry, just serious. too serious for something small. I set my knitting aside and slowly made my way toward her. My knees were stiff that day, and I moved a little slower than usual. When I reached the living room, I noticed her husband wasn't there. It was just her sitting on the couch, hands clasped together, eyes fixed on the floor. That alone told me something was wrong. Anna rarely sat still, and she rarely asked to talk. I sat down across from her, folding my hands in my lap the way I used to when I was a schoolgirl, being spoken to by a teacher. She looked up at me and offered a small smile, thin and uneasy. "Mom," she began softly, "I've been thinking about a few things." There was a pause, a long one, long enough that the ticking of the wall clock filled the room, rhythmically cutting the silence. "Into pieces. Tickle, tickle, tickle." I nodded gently. "Tell me, dear." She took a slow breath. "Mom, I know you're trying. I know you don't want to cause any trouble, and I appreciate everything you've done." Her voice wavered just a little. "But things have been difficult for me lately, really difficult." I felt my fingers tighten around each other. Not out of fear, just bracing myself. She continued, "With the kids, work, the house, and you needing help sometimes, I feel like I'm stretched too thin." I lowered my eyes for a moment. "I try not to ask for help," I whispered. "I know," she said quickly, almost too quickly. "I know you don't mean to add stress, but it still happens, not on purpose, just naturally." She wasn't wrong. Even simple things, medicine, doctor appointments, cooking, cleaning, took energy from her. I didn't deny it, but hearing it said out loud, it stung in a place I didn't know still had feeling left. "I understand," I said quietly. But she wasn't finished. Anna leaned back, exhaled, and rubbed her forehead. "I talked to my sister yesterday," she said. My heart sank slowly. Her sister, my younger daughter. I wondered what they had discussed. I wondered if my name had come up like an item in a to-do list. She cleared her throat and continued. She said, "Maybe it's time we think about what's best for everyone." For everyone. Those words are always a warning. "Maybe," she said slowly, "you could stay with her for a while, at least until things settle." Here, my stomach tightened. Stay with her. My younger daughter lived in another city. A smaller apartment. A different routine. A different life. And deep down, I knew she hadn't invited me. This was not an offer. It was a solution. Anna looked at me, her eyes full of worry. Almost guilt. "It wouldn't be forever," she said. "Just until we get things under control here." Her voice was soft, but her decision was firm. I sat there unable to speak for a moment. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I needed a moment to gather the pieces of myself. I finally asked, "Do you want me to go, Anna?" Her eyes widened. "No, Mom, that's not what I'm saying." But her hesitation was clear. The way her fingers twisted together. The way she avoided looking directly at me. The way she softened every sentence, like cushioning a blow she had already decided to deliver. "You deserve proper care," she added. "You deserve a place where someone can give you more attention." More attention. I almost smiled. Not out of humor, but out of the sad familiarity of those words. I had once said the same thing to my own mother, many years ago. Back then, I didn't understand how heavy those words truly were. Back then, I believed I was doing the right thing. Now I knew better. "Anna," I said softly, "I never wanted to make your life difficult." She shook her head. "You're not making it difficult, it's just life is too much right now." She didn't realize the contradiction in her own words. But I did, completely, and in that moment I felt something inside me fold inward. A small, fragile part of me. The part that still hoped she wanted me as more than a responsibility. I nodded slowly. "I see." Anna leaned forward, her voice low. "We'll figure it out together, I promise." But promises made out of guilt never hold the same warmth. She reached for my hand and I let her hold it. Her fingers were warm. Mine were cold. "Let's not decide anything today," she continued. "I just wanted to talk to prepare us both." Prepare us both. but really she meant prepare me. I left the living room quietly. I didn't cry. Not then. Not yet. I simply went to my room, closed the door gently, and sat on my bed with my hands folded in my lap. I stared at the wall for a long time, listening to the faint sound of the television in the other room, listening to the clatter of dishes, listening to life moving on around me but not with me. Finally, I whispered to myself, the end has started. Not with anger, not with cruelty, but with a soft, polite suggestion disguised as concern. I wasn't being pushed out the door, but the path toward it had been laid out carefully, quietly, step by step. And I knew the next conversation would be even harder. Because once a family opens the door to the idea of letting you go, they rarely close it again. Quiet forgiveness, emotional healing, and gentle realization. I remember sitting alone in my room the night after that difficult conversation with RM, and Sana, the house was unusually silent. Even the ticking of the wall clock felt softer, as if it did not want to disturb me. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the window, watching the distant city lights flicker like tiny signals of life far away from me. I felt empty yet strangely calm, not peaceful but calm, like a storm that had finally accepted it. Had nowhere left to go. For the first time in a long while, I let myself cry without trying to hide it, not the loud kind of crying, not the broken kind where your chest hurts. No, these were slow tears, steady almost. Gentle, they didn't come from anger or heartbreak anymore. They came from understanding. Maybe that is what acceptance feels like, quiet. I had spent so much time questioning myself, wondering what I did wrong, wondering why the people I raised with love could forget that same love. But that night, something softened inside me, not because everything was suddenly okay, not because pain magically disappeared, because I finally realized something important. They were not trying to hurt me. They were trying to live their lives the best way they knew how. And sometimes that means they forget the people who held them before they could even walk. I wiped my face with my dupatta and took a long breath. The air felt lighter, or maybe I had just been carrying too much for too long. The next morning, I woke up before everyone else. It was a habit I never truly let go of. Waking early to prepare breakfast, even though nobody needed me to do it anymore. But that day, I didn't go to the kitchen. I stayed in my room and let myself be still. It felt strange, almost rebellious. After a while, I heard light footsteps in the hallway, soft, unsure. A small knock followed. It was RM's voice, gentle but hesitant. Yes, I said quietly. He slowly opened the door and peeked inside. He looked tired, not physically, but emotionally, like someone who had been holding too many thoughts overnight. Can I come in? He asked. I nodded. He walked in and sat on the chair near my dressing table. His hands were clasped together like a child trying to gather courage before confessing something. I didn't sleep much, he said softly. I know, I replied. He looked up at me, his eyes slightly red. Amy, I'm sorry for everything yesterday, for how things have been. I know it's not easy for you. I listened quietly. I didn't interrupt. I didn't rush to comfort him. I just listened. He continued, I didn't realize how lonely you felt. I didn't want to push you away. I've just been so busy, so caught up in work, the kids, life, that I forgot you were here. He paused, then added even more quietly, I forgot how much you gave up for me. My throat tightened a little, but I breathed through it. RM, I said softly, I don't blame you. Life changes. Children grow up, homes shift. Nothing stays the same. He shook his head, but I should have made space for you, a place where you felt needed. I gave him a small, tired smile. My dear, no one can stay needed forever. That is not how life works. He looked down at his hands again. I don't want you to feel like a burden. Those words, even spoken with guilt and love, cut deeper than he realized. But I didn't let the pain show. I placed my hands softly over his. You didn't make me feel like a burden. Life did, time did. Growing older did, and I had to accept that. He looked up again, and this time his eyes were a mix of sadness and relief, as if he had finally said something he'd been holding back for too long. Amy, I want you to stay with us. I want you to feel at home. His voice trembled slightly. I squeezed his hand. "I will stay," I said, "but not because I need to be needed. I will stay because I want peace, and I want to be where my family is, even if I am quiet, even if I don't fit perfectly anymore." He let out a breath he had been holding, a long, shaky one. Then he stood up, leaned forward, and hugged me tightly. For a moment, he wasn't a grown man with responsibilities and stress. He was my little boy again, whispering against my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Amy." I closed my eyes and let the warmth of the hug settle inside me. "It's all right," I whispered, "we'll try again." Later that day, Sana approached me in the kitchen. She moved slowly, like she was afraid I would walk away. I didn't. I stood still, washing a bowl under the tap. "Amy," she said quietly. I turned off the water and looked at her. Her voice cracked a little as she spoke. "I know I was harsh. I didn't mean to make you feel unwanted." I waited. She looked nervous, as if she were expecting anger. But I wasn't angry, just tired. "I'm sorry," she continued. "Sometimes I get overwhelmed. The house, the kids, work. Everything, and I don't always handle things well." I nodded softly. "I understand." She swallowed, her eyes glistening. "You've always helped us. Maybe I forgot how much." I offered her a small smile, not too big, not forced, just enough to show her I didn't hold hatred in my heart. "I don't want you to be perfect," I told her. "I just want us to respect one another." She let out a breath of relief. "We can do that." We didn't hug, we didn't cry. We simply stood there together for a quiet moment. And sometimes that is enough. The following weeks moved slowly, like gentle waves instead of storms. Things didn't magically become perfect, but they felt softer. I started giving myself small freedoms, something I had forgotten how to do. Sometimes I sat near the window and read a book. Sometimes I brewed tea just for myself. Sometimes I went for a short walk outside, enjoying the fresh air on my skin. I didn't try to fill every silence. I didn't try to solve every problem. I didn't try to be everywhere, doing everything. I finally let myself be. And strangely, that made everyone else calmer too. RM started checking in more often, sitting beside me after dinner, asking about my day. Not in a rushed way, not in a forced way, just present. The children spent more time with me, showing me their drawings, chatting about school, asking me simple things like, "Daddy, can you braid my hair? Daddy, can you help me with this puzzle?" Nothing big, but meaningful. As for Sana, she didn't suddenly become emotional or expressive, but she tried. She included me in small decisions like what to cook for dinner or where to place a new plant in the living room. She asked my opinion, even when she didn't fully follow it. And that was enough. Respect doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it comes in small, quiet gestures. One afternoon, while I was folding laundry, I realized something surprising. I felt lighter. Not entirely healed, not completely understood, but lighter. And then another realization followed, something I hadn't admitted to myself before. I wasn't staying only because they needed me. I wasn't staying only because I loved them. I was staying because I had finally learned how to love myself too. I didn't need to earn my place anymore. I didn't need to prove my worth. I didn't need to wait for gratitude or praise. Just being alive, being present, being gentle, that was enough. Maybe that is what aging teaches us. Not how to hold on, but how to let go gracefully. Sometimes late at night, I would still feel a small ache of loneliness, a little echo of the past. But instead of fearing it, I started accepting it. Loneliness is not an enemy, it is a reminder. A reminder that we have lived, loved, lost, and grown. Life doesn't promise constant togetherness. Even inside a full house, you can feel alone. And even when you're alone, you can feel full. I began to understand that the real home I needed was inside me. And when that realization settled into my bones, I finally slept peacefully. The days that followed were quieter, gentler. Life returned to a rhythm that didn't demand perfection from anyone. I still helped where I could, but I no longer measured my worth by the amount of work I did or the attention I received. I simply was. That alone felt like a miracle. Sometimes I would sit in the living room while Anna and her family went about their evening. I watched the children laugh, watched Anna serve dinner, watched my son-in-law quietly make tea, and instead of feeling excluded, I felt part of it in a soft, silent way, not the center of Attention, not the main character, but a presence that mattered in a different, quieter sense. I began noticing small acts of kindness I had overlooked before, a hand lightly resting on my shoulder, a shared smile over breakfast, a casual question about how I was feeling. These were grand gestures, but they were enough to remind me that love doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers in the little things. I also learned to accept help without guilt. I let Anna adjust the height of my chair in the kitchen. I let her order a doctor's appointment for me without protest, and in doing so, I realized that love is not about independence alone. It's about allowing others to give, even when you've spent lifetime giving. One rainy afternoon, as I sat by the window watching droplets chase each other down the glass, I felt a deep sense of peace. The house was alive with sound, children's laughter from the other room, the hum of a kettle on the stove, the soft murmur of Anna and her husband talking, and yet I felt neither lonely nor invisible. I felt connected, even in my quiet presence. I thought about the years I had spent worrying about whether I was needed, whether I mattered. And I realized how heavy that worry had been, how it had clouded the simple joys that existed. All along, it wasn't about being needed in the old ways. It was about being present in the right way, and that made all the difference. Sometimes, late at night, I would replay the moment when Anna had first suggested I might stay. Elsewhere, I no longer felt hurt or abandoned. Instead, I felt grateful that the conversation had come, that it had opened the door to honesty, grateful that it had led to understanding and gentle adjustments rather than resentment or anger, grateful that life had given me the opportunity to accept and adapt rather than resist and break. I also learned to forgive not just them but myself. I forgave myself for expecting things to remain unchanged. I forgave myself for feeling lonely. I forgave myself for moments of bitterness and doubt, and in forgiving I felt lighter, freer, more whole. One evening, as I was knitting another scarf for my granddaughter, she climbed into my lap, her small fingers tangling in the yarn. She looked up at me and smiled. "Daddy, you always make the best scarves," she said. I smiled back, my heart quietly full. "And you're the best little helper," I replied. The simplicity of that moment, a hug, a smile, a shared laugh, reminded me of what truly matters. Life isn't measured by grand gestures or constant attention. It's measured by quiet presence, patience, and love that persists even when the world shifts around you. And that's the lesson I carry now. We all reach moments when we feel unwanted, overlooked, or forgotten by those we love most. But these moments are not the end. They are a chance, a gentle, often painful chance to see love in a new light, to understand it, embrace it, and sometimes to redefine it. I have learned that family is not just the people who always include you in every plan, every conversation, every decision. Family is also the people who allow you to be, even when your role changes, the people who let your presence be enough. And in that understanding, I found peace. I still spend mornings at the window watching life unfold outside. I still enjoy quiet evenings. With my knitting, I still fold laundry, make tea, and prepare small meals. But now each action is a choice, not an obligation. Each gesture is a way of saying I am here, I exist, and that is enough. Some days I look around the room and see laughter, warmth, and love in ways I hadn't noticed before. I feel my children and grandchildren near me, not just in body, but in heart. And even if they are busy, even if their lives are full and complicated, I know this: I am still part of this story. I always will be. And that is the quiet miracle of growing older, of learning to accept change, of finding peace in presence rather than control. Life does not always unfold as we hope. People grow, roles shift, and time moves on. But love, patient, enduring, quiet love, can find its place again, even in the smallest corners of our lives. I have learned to cherish it. I have learned to let go of the need to be needed. I have learned that simply being, simply loving, simply witnessing life is more than enough. And in that realization, I smile softly, even on the quietest, loneliest days. Because I know my place in this family, in this world, in this story is permanent, even when it feels invisible, even when it is silent, even when it is misunderstood. It is mine, and that is enough.